Good morning, Bucknutters. It's Thursday, January 15th, 2015. I am Dan Rubin. This is the Bucknuts Morning 5-ish. I have to admit, I woke up this morning, was a little groggy, and then I realized, holy S, we did win the national championship. That's a very pleasant way to start your day, even though it was my second day waking up as the devotee of a world champion or national champion. There's still some times when it's almost too hard to believe that it's true. So if you're basking in the glory or driving in your car sometime and realizing, hey, you're the champs, enjoy it. These kinds of experiences don't come along that often. What's it been? X number of times in 46 years. So enjoy it. Share it with your family. If there's a Michigan fan in your office, you might want to pass along to them what went down. That said, today's Thursday. That means one thing. Steve Wiltfong bringing you some recruiting knowledge.
As promised, we are joined by 24/7 Sports recruiting expert extraordinaire Steve Wiltfong. Steve, thanks for joining us this morning, my brother.
Good morning, Daniel. Have you recovered from your Monday grade A trip? I mean, Dan Rubin flew out to the national championship game like a celebrity, literally.
Let's just say I flew out next to a celebrity, and sometimes being next to a celebrity, I was Turtle, basically, in the entourage. But, we'll take it for an afternoon or an evening, especially when the result is what it was. Like I told you, Steve, it was a glorious experience. I'm still trying to get my head wrapped around it. I said in the open here, I woke up this morning and I was like, oh, my God, they're still champs, which is pretty awesome. But
sure.
Your bag is recruiting, and although Ohio State's class looks like it, if it's not filled out, it's very close. There are still some guys taking visits. Maybe they are long shots and big-time targets. Break down for us a little bit maybe the few guys left you think that they have a legit shot at, or at least have a legit shot to get on campus and try and entertain here as we close down 15.
Well, you pull up this clean visit list on Bucknuts.com, and you see in 2 weekends you got Terry Beckner and Isaiah Prince coming in. They're coming in next weekend, not this weekend, but next weekend. Isaiah Prince is a top 100 offensive tackle from the DMB, Eleanor Roosevelt High in Greenbelt, Maryland. And he's a guy that we've talked about before. And nothing has changed from what I'm hearing. Ohio State is the biggest threat to Maryland to take Isaiah out of the DMB. I got a chance to talk with Isaiah yesterday, and he's really clicked with Ed Warner, who's now the new offensive coordinator and obviously one of the best offensive line coaches in the country. What a job he did this year with that offensive line, which we could quickly get off track and talk about how there was a point in the process where people thought that Notre Dame was out recruiting Ohio State at the offensive line because Notre Dame's offensive line coach was maybe keeping in touch with Liam Eichenberg a little bit more. But at the same time, well, Ed Warner, all he has to do is walk up to Liam Eichenberg and say, look what I just did. Look what we just did as a unit. And I put in a crystal ball forecast for Liam Eichenberg right after the national championship game. I was on foggy for a while, but all the information was leaning towards Ohio State for a while. I just hadn't made the move yet. Got a chance to talk to Draymond Jones about Liam at the Army Bowl, and he's a teammate of Liam's at St. Ignatius, obviously, and an Ohio State commit. He said that he thought it was starting to trend towards Ohio State. So all that together, Ed Warner developing young men, getting guys ready to play. That offensive line really came a long way in helping them win the national championship. And Isaiah Prince saw that. And meanwhile, Isaiah said that he keeps in regular touch with Coach Warner, and then obviously Coach Johnson is recruiting the hell out of Isaiah, and Coach Johnson will be in there today. Ohio State's first school going in to see Isaiah Prince. We all know about Coach Loxley. He's a great recruiter at Maryland, and he's done a great job of building a strong rapport with Isaiah, and Isaiah's excited about the future at Maryland too. So we'll see what happens there. He's visiting Alabama this weekend, so you can never count the Crimson Tide out, as we all know. So that's the final three for Isaiah. But Ohio State's going to have a chance to hit a home run with him in 2 weekends. And so we'll see if they can't land another top 100 recruit. Terry Beckner, I still think it's a long shot. I'm not even sure that he's fully able to get into Ohio State at this point. There's absolutely no denying that he's a fantastic player, 5-star, top 10 player that can play across the front for you if you need to. Missouri's no question the team to beat. He's at Auburn this weekend, then going to Ohio State next weekend, and then finishing the official visit process with Missouri. So looking good for Missouri, for Terry Beckner. Ohio State's in the top 2, in my opinion, for Isaiah Prince. Then you go into the final official visit weekend. You got Austrian Robinson, who 6'6", 255-pound defensive lineman. We talked about him last week on the Morning Five. He's a guy that stood out to me and physically impressed me when I saw him at the Jersey Nike football training camp. And it's obvious that he wasn't a top-of-the-board prospect for a few schools, but he is certainly the type of guy that could, with the physical tools and his athletic ability, that he could outperform many guys that all the ranking industry has ranked above him. He's a grown man, and he's on campus, and I think that one's looking good for Ohio State. Maryland is his leader as well, but I don't think he's seen a place like Ohio State just yet, so that'll be an interesting visit. And then the South Carolina commit, Damon Arnett, is on the list for that weekend, but we'll see what happens with that. So Ohio State, they got a chance to close with a couple guys and maintain a top 10 class. And then, as we say every week, Dan, you have the Urban Meyer enterprise. So all his coaches are working hard, and a new name could pop up here or there and be added to the visitor list, and no one should be surprised.
Yeah, if I may, I want to touch back on something you said about Ed Warner, and you could certainly echo these comments for me because I've learned a lot. You know, on the recruiting trail, Warner is seen as a guy who may be a little bit gruff. Is that fair to say, and not maybe a butt kisser like some of the other guys out there? You think that's fair to say?
I think that.
And it has turned off some.
And let's not call like recruiters that like maintain a daily line of communication ass kissers. They're just good recruiters. But my point is that not everyone has that. Right. No question. But that doesn't mean that. Like Ed, you have to be what your personality is. You can't fake it.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Right. And Ed Warner, what's wrong with being able to say, hey, you know what? I didn't call you 8 days a week, but come play for me, and I'll put your ass in the NFL. You know what I mean?
See, that's my point. No, Steve, that's exactly my point. My thing is now, at one point, when that kind of bothered me, because remember we used to discuss, a year ago we were talking about Tommy Kramer out of Elder and Liam Eichenberg, and I was so concerned about him. But given what I've seen out of Warner over since he's been here, if you don't want to come play for him, that's your loss. Well, he'll take someone else and put him in the NFL. Andrew Norwell wasn't even invited to the Combine, and he started for the Panthers in the playoffs. They put 3 guys into the pros and then took 5 guys who have never started at the same position this year and rocked their way to the national championship. So my feeling is if you can't handle Ed Warner, you shouldn't even – then we don't want you. I'm serious about that.
And good recruiters and good coaches don't win every recruiting battle, but it's a deal where a guy like Ed Warner has built a reputation in my mind where he can look a recruit in the eye and say, look, I'm recruiting you and 4 other guys that I think are impact guys, and you've seen my track record. I'm going to keep in touch with you. I'm going to recruit you to Ohio State and come on. And who knows, maybe he was staying in daily communication with Liam. I just remember the perception was that for a moment when Notre Dame looked like they were going to get both 5-star tackles out of Ohio, that people were ready to crucify Ed Warner on websites. And there's no question. Ed Warner was getting bagged on a little bit on Ohio State message boards when the man's can flat coach, and that's got to stand for something. And another offensive
fair to say that he was getting negative recruited elsewhere by other coaches too?
I don't know. I mean, I'd never heard that. I don't know how you can, because at the end of the day, a family could bring that up to Ed and say, hey, this is what another school said about you, and it would just be, what can you say? The man's produced it all through his career, and he continues to move up the ladder. And the next job for him is a head coach somewhere, because Ohio State's going to keep having success. So Ed Warner's going to show up with and get more head coaching interviews. He's interviewed in the past, but once you become the OC at a place, once you become the OC at a place like Ohio State, and you're young, and young enough, you got a shot to be a head coach somewhere. So that'll be the next move for
I just wanted to get that on record because I had bought into the false narrative too, and someone asked me yesterday who the MVP of the team was, and I said, "There's the closet MVP, sleeper MVP of the team is Ed Warner." But anyway, we move on.
And Tom Herman, you can't even pick who the best assistant coach was, really. Like you could go into the bar, you could go into a bar in Columbus, and people would eventually. You could have a passionate, heated argument who the best assistant coach was on the staff, and make a claim for several guys. Tom Herman, what a job! What a job he did, and then you look at Larry Johnson, all the NFL guys they got up front that they're developing. It's you can make a strong case for a few cats.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. And like I was saying, as if winning the national championship was not glorious enough during the game, and we realized commitments from young players can change. The number one running back in the country from the class of 2016 committed, Kareem Walker out of New Jersey. What do you know about Kareem? What do you know about his recruitment, and did that take you by surprise?
Well, it didn't catch me by surprise that he's a Buckeye. Ohio State was always one of his top schools, and he was a priority recruit for Coach Warner's the lead recruiter on him, which is funny enough. But for Stan Drayton and Coach Warner and Urban Meyer and the staff, he was always a priority, and Ohio State was a school that impressed him when he visited. I think it was back in August. But he's a guy, the number one ranked running back according to the 24/7 Sports Composite, 6'1", 210 pounds. A guy that it's a big time get, and the first out of state get for Ohio State, and they're building a recruiting class. And I know we were going to touch on this later in the conversation, but you look at what Ohio State's building. They recruited the number 3 ranked recruiting class last year, number 2 the year before that. So these are the young pups that are going to move into even more relevant roles if they haven't already for the Ohio State football team next year. And then you got this class, which has got a strong chance to finish in the top 10. Then you look at this Kareem Walker class with George Hill, Jonathan Cooper, Tyler Gerald, and Kier Hawkins in the boat already. This class got a chance to certainly compete for the top spot. Jarrett Guarantano, the top 247 quarterback from New Jersey, he could be next in the boat. Ohio State's where my crystal ball is, and I assume that's where Alex and Bill have theirs. And then you have guys like DeMario McCall, who's out. Kareem Walker and DeMario McCall, that's just going to be a special.
Fire and ice.
Yes, I would. Thank you. I was looking for something like that to say. That's going to be a special combination. DeMario McCall is big time, and you look at some of the other. You look at. He ran 4.3 at Ohio State on Ohio State's time, so he's just big time. And then Liam Eichenberg and Guarantano, they got so many. The younger Bosa. So this class got a chance to be special. And then 2017, 3 top 100 commits already committed. They're number 1 right now in 2017. And the one thing and who knows how solid these commits are, because so long from signing day, and it's just going to be hard for these kids to not take visits elsewhere. But what we do know to be true is that Ohio State's going to recruit the hell out of these guys, whether they're committed or not, all the way to signing day. So they'll be in it, and we'll see what happens. And I was referring more to the 2017 than and that last statement was referring more to the 2 2017 kids. But it's still a long way of signing day for Kareem too. But a hell of a get and a hell of a start for the Buckeyes in 2016, no question.
No doubt. So just let's finish it off with this. Obviously, you can make the argument that Ohio State and Alabama, and that certainly the numbers bear it out over the last 5 years, if you combine the average 24/7 composite rating, they're at the zenith of recruiting. Do you think Ohio State's endeavors of the last week could even strengthen that, or they're about as strong as they're going to get?
Well, I think that Ohio State's got a shot to be number one in 16 and 17, and winning the national championship certainly is an inch that helps, but they were in the playoff, and that was a huge inch. There's just so many good things about Ohio State that they win the national championship. Sure, I mean, you can't achieve anything better, that I'd be lying if that said that didn't help on the recruiting trail. But Ohio State, they are already recruiting at such a high level that it's just. I feel like if they would have lost to Oregon, they still would have a shot to sign the top class in 2016 and 2017. You know what I mean? So
Sure.
I don't really know how to put that into perspective other than to say it's another outstanding coal in the fire. You know,
It's a great way to end that much.
Right, and they're going to be in the hunt for another one next year. So they're going to be in a hunt for it every year at this point. You know, unless.
No, I think you could make a realistic argument that they'll start next year at number one, and then who knows after that. But if you were going to bet on the year after that, I think you'd have to bet on them too. So it's a glorious time to be a Buckeye. Steve, we appreciate all you've done for us this season. Now that the regular season or the football season is over, don't fret, people. Steve Wiltfong will still be here every Thursday to talk to you about recruiting and let you in on the inside. Steve, we appreciate all you've done for us this season, and we look forward to talking to you much more as the time goes on.
Man, I can't wait. I'm having so much fun coming on the Bucknuts Morning 5. And the last thing, it was on my mind, so I figure we might as well hash it out, is just the Big Ten in general, I think, is on the uptick. So you're talking about Ohio State. They're going to be in the national title hunt every year, but they're getting tested. They're getting tested in the regular season, and it's even going to be more so moving on. And I think that's going to weigh into the committee's mind about how much easier it should be for a Big Ten team to get into the playoff and maybe even potentially two down the road. I think Michigan State's going to be a hell of a football team next year, and so there may be two teams worthy.
That sounds so good. I don't even want to think about it just now. I'm going to bask in the glow. Steve, thank you very much. We'll talk to you next Thursday. Go Bucks.
Thanks, Dan. Steve.